Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, March 21st. There's about 350 albums coming out this week. I got 10 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 350 albums coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 10 of them today, though, so if there's something you're looking forward to that I don't have on here, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing. Like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I put links down below in the comment section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon. I got all the pre-orders on there, new releases, all sorts of cool stuff to check out. So I think the big release this week is going to be this new box set from Rush, 50. So this is a new career-spanning anthology that they're releasing. Two versions of this. There's a deluxe version, which is just 7 LPs for $250. And then there's a super deluxe box set. It's going to run you $375, which is that same 7 LPs, but it also comes with 4 CDs. This is 50 tracks from across Rush's career. They got songs on here from every one of Rush's albums. And of those 50 songs, 7 of them are unreleased, 5 of which are live songs or live versions. So I guess there's a couple of big differences between the deluxe box set and the super deluxe box set. Like I said, music-wise, the only difference is just the CDs. But the deluxe box set also comes with a 104-page book. It's got artwork, it's got photos in there. Then the super deluxe version includes all of that, plus it has 20 lithographs. It also has a 100-page graphic novel. It all comes housed in a nice deluxe box. You know, new artwork on the box, new artwork on all the albums also. You know, if you're a Rush fan, you know, it's a cool one to grab. I wish they would have done maybe like a pared down 2 LP version of this, almost like a new greatest hits compilation, which is basically what this is, just in a larger form. But you know, so if you're a Rush fan, that might be a cool one to check out this week. Then you've also got the new album from My Morning Jacket coming out. This is it's their 10th studio album. It's gonna be on Summer Sky vinyl. It's like a blue, light blue kind of color. It's gonna run you about $24. So for the new album, My Morning Jacket brought in Brendan O'Brien to produce it, and he's worked with a bunch of great artists over the years. Of course, he worked with Pearl Jam. He's worked with Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden. He's also worked with Limp Bizkit. He's worked with Korn. He's done a lot of really great stuff over the last, 30 years. This is the band's first album since their self-titled album came out in 2021. They've released, I think, 2 singles off this album so far. The first one is the only one I've listened to, which is Time Waited. Sounds like a good track. I think it's going to be a good album also. There's also a new 50th anniversary Half-Speed Master edition of Venus and Mars by Paul McCartney and Wings coming out. So this came out back in 1975. It was their 4th studio album. It's all Half-Speed mastered at Abbey Road. It's going to run you about $38. So, of course, this is the follow-up to their gigantic album, Band on the Run, which came out in 73. I think for a lot of bands, it's always hard to follow up an album like that, especially with the success that they had on that one. And while I don't think Venus and Mars is anywhere close to being as great as Band on the Run, it's still a really good album in its own right. I think the interesting thing about this album is it was this period when they were recording this album that John Lennon was on his lost weekend, which was that 18-month separation he had from Yoko. And he was visiting the recording studio while Paul was recording this album. And there for a while, there was conversation about possibly getting back together and writing some music together. Not necessarily like reforming the Beatles, but just getting back together and writing some new material between the two of them. And then John ended up getting back together with Yoko, and all those plans kind of fell apart, and nothing ever happened from it. But even someone like me who's not a big fan of Wings, this is one of my favorite albums from the band. It did really well also commercially. It hit, I think, number 31 on the Billboard 200. So that one's coming out this week. Then we also got Private Dancer by Tina Turner getting reissued. Came out back in 1984. It was her 5th solo studio album. It's going to be on light blue vinyl. It's going to run about $24. This was the gigantic album for Tina Turner. Of course, she'd had a success early in her career with Ike. She had some moderate success also solo-wise. I know she did Acid Queen in the mid-70s, which kind of brought her back into the mainstream. But this was the album that really kind of made her the gigantic star that she has been. And musically, it was a big shift away from the R&B that she did earlier in her career with Ike. and that more like disco rock stuff that she did on her albums before this one, where this one was more like a like kind of a straightforward pop rock kind of album. Had some R&B mixed in there also, had some ballads mixed in. She had 3 top 10 singles and 2 top 50 singles on here. You know, Private Dancer was a big single. Of course, What's Love Got to Do with It was the biggest song on that album, and I think really kind of helped, like I said, kind of bring her back into the mainstream and kind of make her one of the biggest musicians of the 80s. There's a couple of great jazz albums coming out this week. The first one is Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. Come out back in 1963. It's on clear vinyl. It's going to be about $18. This is the only recording of these two giants that they ever did together. So it was kind of an interesting recording session. So this was done over 2 sessions in early 1963. And basically what they did is Duke Ellington and John Coltrane brought their own rhythm section with them. And they would alternate rhythm sections on each track. So Duke brought Aaron Bell and Sam Woodyard with him, which are 2 great musicians. John brought Jimmy Garrison, Elvin Jones. Elvin Jones is one of my favorite jazz drummers of all time. This is one of my favorite jazz albums. The album starts off with In a Sentimental Mood, which I think is one of the greatest jazz songs ever recorded, especially this version of it. I love it. This is one of the first jazz albums I really got into and really got me into jazz. But just kind of keep in mind that this is a release from Wax Time Records, which Wax Time, they're not anywhere close to being like an audiophile label. I've got a couple of their releases in my collection. They always sound good. Like I said, incredible album you're getting for $18. And then you also got Horace Silver, Serenade to a Soul Sister coming out. So this came out back in 1968. This is part of the Blue Note Classic Series. It's going to run you about $28. These are always mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. They're pressed to optimal. They always sound fantastic. So Horace was one of the pioneers of hard bop in the 50s, but by the time he got to the end of the 60s, his music had really evolved. And he had moved on to this almost like soul jazz with a little bit of funk in there. It's a very different album, but I think this is easily one of the best albums that Horace ever released, especially in that later period of the 60s and early 70s. So this album was recorded over 2 different recording sessions with 2 different quintets. So he's joined by a lot of great musicians on this album. He's got Charles Tolliver, Bob Cranshaw, Bernie Maupin's on here, John Williams, some other great musicians. If you've never listened to any of Horace's music, I think this is a great one to start with. There's also a self-titled album from Scary Kids, Scaring Kids coming out this week. So this came out back in 2007. It was their second studio album. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to be on silver bullet vinyl. It's going to run you about $43. So if you're unfamiliar with this band, they're a post-hardcore band. Started, I think it was 2002 when they formed out in Arizona. Their debut album came out in 2005. They released this album in 2007. And then their third album didn't come out until 2022. So there's a big gap between their second and third album. But of their 3 albums, I think this is, at least in my opinion, this is their best album. This is the first time it's ever been available on vinyl. There's been people who have been asking for this album to get pressed for a very, very long time. It was also the band's highest charting album, hit number 80 on the Billboard 200. They're a post-hardcore band, but I've always considered this more like a melodic hardcore album, even though there's a very fine line between post-hardcore and melodic hardcore. I love this album. This is the album that got me into the band, and it's definitely one I'm going to grab this week. There's also Battle for Everything by Five for Fighting getting reissued this week. This came out back in 2004. It was their third studio album. So this is music on vinyl release, so it is limited. It's only limited to 500 copies, which is really low, but it's going to be on gold vinyl. It's going to run you about $40. So if you're unfamiliar with Five for Fighting, this is a solo project from Vladimir Andrasik. He's released 6 studio albums since 1997. He had some moderate success with his 2000 album, America Town, but this one actually charted even better. This one hit number 20 on the Billboard 200. It went platinum in the US. I think this is the only platinum album from Five for Fighting. They're another one of those bands that if you're unfamiliar with them, they're kind of a cool one to check out. A little bit kind of like a more poppy kind of rock, but they've got some good stuff across his career. And then rounding out the list this week are 2 great live albums from the legendary band the Buzzcocks. Both of these were recorded on April 12th, 1995. So in 1993, the Buzzcocks got back together as the first album since, I think, 1979. They recorded Trade Test Transmissions, and then this was the tour. This show was recorded during the tour, so it was like the reunion tour after they released that album. This one wasn't available on vinyl until 2022. I think this is the reissue of that pressing, though. This live album has most of their best-known tracks on here. But this was kind of paired for a long time. This was paired with the other album that's getting reissued this week, which is Encore du Pain. So they were paired for a long time as Live in Paris. This is just a 1 LP release. It's going to run you about $24, but this has been released under a couple of different names over the years. Like I said, it was released as Live in Paris with French. It was also released as Orgasm Addicts. It was also released as songs at a different time. It was also released as an RSD release in 2019, but that was a different pressing than what's coming out this week. So if you're a fan of the Buzzcocks, both of these albums together, you're going to spend a lot. It's going to be like, $65 for the two albums. But, there's a ton of great music across here from all across the Buzzcocks career. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. I'm probably going to get that Scary Kids Scaring Kids. I might have it pre-ordered by the time this video actually pops up. I'll check out the new album from My Morning Jacket. I might grab that Tina Turner because I don't have Private Dancer on vinyl. I'll probably also grab that Horace Silver album. I don't know. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.